All right, so like I mentioned, we need to talk quickly about getting you set up to get your Qualtrics account. This basically just looks like logging into your Qualtrics account, seeing that you don't have any experimenter privileges yet, but if you don't log into your account at least once, you won't be logged into the system, and when I request an experimenter account for you, I will get an error message. Then I'll be talking through how to find good quality research with an emphasis on finding research using the PsychInfo psychology database. Okay, so getting started with Qualtrics, which, as I mentioned, is going to be the platform where you program your surveys. It's a platform that lets you program surveys and distribute surveys. So it's a basically one-stop shop for getting our surveys running and up off the ground. In order to use Qualtrics, you do need to have what's called an experimenter account. So in order to get this account, you need to log into Qualtrics initially. You will not have any privileges as yet. So what you need to do right now is you can follow that link there, or you can just go to Google and type Miami U Qualtrics, and it will take you to a page that looks like this. Okay, from here, you need to press this button for log into Qualtrics. You'll enter your Miami credentials, again, your unique ID and your password, and from there, it should log you into an account without any privileges. If you log in, you should likely see something that says you don't have permission to access or program surveys, something like that. That's what you want. If you do that, if you log in, you successfully get into Qualtrics and you see that message, then you have done everything you need for this step. Because then what happens is I go to this request sponsored student Qualtrics account, and I'm going to enter your unique ID and request for IT to make you an experimenter's account where you can make a survey. But if you don't log in initially, when I go to request your account, I will get an error message saying that you need to create your account first. So save yourself the headache, go ahead and log in now so that when I request your account, it just goes through. Typically takes no more than like a half hour to get approval. I will get a message letting me know that your account has successfully been granted experimenter and programming privileges, at which point you will be able to make your survey. We're again not quite there yet. We're going to be learning about Qualtrics more next week once your survey materials have made a little bit more progress, but better to get this out of the way now. Okay. Does anyone have any questions at this stage?
Sorry, can you repeat? So I'm on the Qualtrics now and I can't create a new project. What do you want us to do?
That's it. If it says you can't create a new project, but you're in the account, that's it.
Okay.
What that basically means is that you have now created your account. It's just that you don't have the programming privileges. So I need to request those for you, but if you never logged into your account, IT will not even recognize that you have an account to get privileges added to it. So that's why you need to do that step. But if you see a message that says you can't make a survey, but you're logged in, that's it, you're done. I said it was quick. Okay, anyone else having any issues? Okay, I'll be copying down your names at some point over today's meeting, not for check-in credit. You'll need to arrange that separately, but so I know that everyone here has theoretically logged into Qualtrics, and I'll get your account requested ASAP. And I should be able to let you know when your account is created. But if you did successfully log on, then you should get your Qualtrics privileges very, very shortly after I submit that request. Any other questions before I move on? So you should just be able to log in with your Miami credentials, and it should just automatically let you in. If anyone has any questions, feel free to let me know. But as long as you log in, that's it, you're done for now. So now I'm going to move on to talking about finding research. So like I mentioned, I want to do a short lecture on finding good sources in general. Just some skills having to do with using the internet to sort of maximize your ability to find good research, because the internet, as I'm sure you're all aware, is full of garbage, nonsense, tomfoolery, and conspiracy theories. So how do you weed through all the bullshit and find good quality resources? You can utilize the internet in ways to make sure that you're not consuming that garbage research. One way to make sure you're finding good quality, or at least academic quality resources, is to use a library database. But there's other ways that you can just use other resources on the internet, as long as you're doing so thoughtfully. So you can evaluate any piece of content you're reading to try and figure out whether or not it's trustworthy using the absolutely adorably named CRAP test. This was given to me by the social sciences librarian a couple years ago, and I still use it even though it's corny, because it basically just gives you a set of real quick heuristics for trying to evaluate the worthiness of a source, basically figure out if it's good or not. So currency, right, all things being equal, something that's more recent is better, because that likely takes into account more recent updates to what we know. Relevancy, is this actually the topic that you're interested in? Authoritativeness, this will involve you looking at who is putting out the information that you're reading. Is it someone that has an expertise? Is it an institution that has a bias, or is it nonpartisan? Who wrote it? Is it a person that I think has expertise on this topic? Was it peer reviewed, or is it just somebody's random ass blog? Accuracy, so how do you evaluate the accuracy of a source? By double checking things and doing your own fact checking. So is there a citation section that you can follow up on? That's good, right? You want to make sure that any citations are backed up with solid evidence. The purpose of the work, so is there bias or opinion built into it, or is it meant to be as scientific and objective as possible? It's hard to evaluate bias, because there is no such thing as a completely bias-free source. There's just attempts to be as objective as possible, but we're all flawed human beings. So just trying to figure out whether or not the author has tried to minimize subjectivity. These are the sort of criteria that can help you evaluate anything you're reading to figure out whether it's garbage or maybe trustworthy. So in terms of trying to set yourself up for success so that you're looking for the best quality resources, you can tailor your search to specific places on the internet. So I'm going to show you a few strategies for doing that. You can read things in academic journals. Academic journals, if you're interested in scientific research, is basically where the original research is published. So it's sort of as close as you can get to the original source. If you want to look up academic journals, definitely PsychInfo is going to be a great bet, and we're going to talk more about that later. But there's other places on the internet that you can find academic articles. They're not just available through library-based databases. So for example, you could use Google Scholar or ResearchGate. So I'm going to show you a couple examples. This, for example, is Google Scholar. We all know that a general Google search can turn up all of the garbage the internet has to offer. Google Scholar selects the search down for just academic and scholarly sources. If you type into Google a scholarly topic, like let's say self-esteem and mental health, Google will likely recognize that that's a topic that has a lot of scholarship associated with it, and it will likely show you a link where you can just select for the scholarly materials. So if you were to just type self-esteem and mental health into Google generally, you're going to get millions and millions and millions of sources that includes the scholarly stuff, but also pulls up random blogs and YouTube videos and things that you don't care about. A Google Scholar search is going to select things down just a little bit. ResearchGate, now this is like LinkedIn for people who do research. You create a profile and you basically post about your research perspective and any publications that you have. Most researchers who are active on ResearchGate will post updates on what they've published, often including even links to entire PDFs for their articles. Sometimes if an article does not appear to be available on a database or on Google, sometimes researchers are just posting it on their ResearchGate. Technically, when researchers get published, they cede ownership of their written product to the journal, which is kind of fucked up. But the sort of status quo in the field is that researchers pretty freely share their articles. They do not want it to be inaccessible. They want to make it as available to people as possible. So ResearchGate is going to be a great tool for finding research that the authors themselves have published and want to put out there. There's additionally a function on ResearchGate to send someone a request. So if there's a particular author you're interested in and you found their ResearchGate account, you could send them a message asking them to send an article to you. Most researchers are very, very happy to field those requests, very, very happy to send along whatever materials you want. Again, they're not trying to hide their materials and their research and their publications from people. They typically want to freely share them. Not everything you read obviously has to be an academic source. Reading academic publications and articles is a bit of a slog. They can be heavy, they can be jargon laden, completely understandable. Getting your skill at reading academic and scientific sources is valuable, and we'll be discussing that in the reading research worksheet coming up. But completely understandable that you might want to look for some sources outside of the original academic scientific stuff, just because it'll be a little bit easier, a bit more digestible. Mainstream publications, there's lots of great reputable outlets that you can look up. The Atlantic, the Wall Street Journal, the AP. These are all generally quite reputable, more mainstream outlets that are written for non-scientific audiences. Now, it's important to keep in mind that, like, for example, the Wall Street Journal has its reporting side and it's got its op-ed side. So the opinion side, that's all opinion-based stuff that you can read for fun. But if you're looking for something that's a little bit more empirical, you might want to stay away from the op-ed side of the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. So it's kind of hard to figure out which outlets are reputable. Things like, has the outlet been around for a really long time? Do they hire people who are experts? Do they hire people who do a lot of good fact checking, etc.? Those are the sorts of things to help you evaluate whether or not you can trust an outlet. Or you can ask for my opinion, or you can Google it. You can try your best to figure out which sources are legit. I'm telling you in this list, just some smattering, smorgasbord of outlets that I think are of good quality. But other ways that you can try and evaluate the quality of a source in a mainstream publication, looking for citations and looking for a references section. Like I mentioned, that's a good indication that you're dealing with as accurate as possible caliber of information. So how can you actually use these sources? Again, these are not scientific or academic journals, but they're more like reporting. But let's say you're interested in a topic like alcohol use, substance abuse. This is a topic that has scholarly and academic work on it, but then there's also these sorts of write-ups in the Atlantic that cover something like the history of Alcoholics Anonymous. If you're interested in alcohol use, this would be a great article to read to get a really good solid background on the history of Alcoholics Anonymous. And you might come across some really great facts and tidbits in your reading of these mainstream sources to help augment your understanding of a topic. So for example, in that Alcoholics Anonymous article, they have this factoid cited from governmental research saying that America spends $35 billion a year on substance abuse treatments. That's a great fact to help bolster your background knowledge on your topic of interest if alcohol abuse is your topic of interest. Another great way to find solid quality research is to use government-based research. So certain facets of the government that do scientific research, you can basically trust them to put together pretty solid empirical stuff. The scientific institutions for the government are typically independent agencies that have their own scientific mission. As such, you can largely trust the scientific research that is available on any United States government website. So these will be websites where the ending is .gov. For example, the National Institute of Health and the National Science Foundations, those are going to be .gov websites, and they are going to be they're going to make available a plethora of really great information, possibly including questionnaires, which you guys are likely interested in. Census data, again, if you're looking for background information, census is going to be great. But let me show you an example of how you could utilize the NIH and the NSF websites to find some really good sources. This here is a screenshot of the NIH US National Library of Medicine. If you kind of click around various websites available through the NIH webpage, you can find A to Z websites where basically you can just find the topic that you're interested in and get more information on it. So on the same topic of alcohol use, right, they've got this entire page devoted to providing you links to learn more about alcohol use research that the NIH is affiliated with.
Professor Borlance,
Yeah.
we can't see your screen.
Oh no. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
This is the same lecture slides that I have on Canvas, so you could always download them from there, but thank you for letting me know. I feel like an asshole. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay. Sorry about that. Do you need me to go back and revisit anything, or can I just keep going?
I'm fine. You can just keep going, yeah.
Okay. All right, so this was the slide where I was talking about government sources. Okay, I talked about that. This A to Z page from the NIH. Okay, basically you would just need to think of like, what's the topic of my choosing, and try and figure out what the term that encompasses it would be. So sometimes this is going to be pretty straightforward, like alcohol abuse, obviously that's going to be under the A page. Lots of different sources there for you to follow up, look up information on the consequences of alcohol abuse, questionnaires, possibly evaluating alcohol use. I know a lot of students are interested in sleep, so there's information on the importance of sleep on health. I know at least a few groups are very interested in bullying. In terms of finding good quality research on bullying, you might want to experiment with different terms to search under. So bullying might be referred to as teen violence in an academic setting. It might be referred to as peer-to-peer aggression. You just have to sort of tool around and try and find things. So definitely I would recommend trying to find background research on the NSF or NIH. Those are great government agencies to try and augment your background research. Now, some areas where you probably want to tread lightly, because this is going to be where a lot of the garbage on the internet is found. Something like Google or Wikipedia. Obviously, you're going to want to be cautious in using these sources because they're going to not just provide you good quality academic and scientific research, they're going to provide you with high octane crap. Wikipedia, for example, though, it's all about how you use it. So I said that a references section is a good sign. In terms of a source that you're reading being legit, Wikipedia has a references section, and that is a good sign. Wikipedia, the fact that it's crowdsourced does mean that anyone can contribute to that information on an article, but it also means that there's other people looking out for the quality and accuracy. So a lot of the mistaken information on Wikipedia does get taken down pretty quickly. What I would recommend is looking at Wikipedia as a great place to start, but not a place to end. You can basically use it to get acquainted with a topic and use it as a way to try and find further sources. Go to the references section of a Wikipedia article. Make sure that they're not dead links. There's lots of dead links in Wikipedia references sections. If you can find the links and verify that the citation in a Wikipedia references section actually is accurate and is accurately reflected in the actual article, that's a good thing. So you wouldn't want to necessarily use Wikipedia as like a primary source, like when you're writing a paper, but you can use it to find sources and learn things, absolutely. Google, like I mentioned, is problematic because any Google search yields everything relevant to your search on the internet, but you can target your Google search well. So I'm going to show you an example of how this might look. So let's say you've taken a social site class and you're interested in this terror management theory that you've heard about, but you want to learn a little bit more. Here's what a Google search that I would consider good quality might look like. So you throw terror management theory into Google. What you see here, you see a Wikipedia article, so you might want to read that. You see a terror management article from Psychology Today. Psychology Today is an online periodical that writes about psychology research in a lot more of an accessible, written, non-for-scientific audience kind of way. So that's a good source. You can always use Psychology Today. I recommend it. And additionally, up top, you see that link that says Scholarly Articles for Terror Management Theory. If you were to click on that, it would take you to the Google Scholar results. So it just gives you the scholarly stuff. I've already gone over Google Scholar, so let's see what happens if we go to that terror management Wikipedia site. Okay, so it takes you to this article, and it has a really quick, broad write-up at top before it gets into its subsections. Like I mentioned, one strategy I would recommend is to follow up on the references available in a Wikipedia article. So all of the links in a Wikipedia article should take you down to a references section, and you should be able to verify that the link actually has a citation that's accurate for what was written in the article. So for example, this first reference in the terror management theory article in Wikipedia is this chapter written by Greenberg, Pazinski, and Solomon. Those were the researchers who developed the theory. So that's a good sign. But what if I want to actually read that source to make sure that it actually maps onto what's written in the article? I would recommend taking that title of that chapter and putting it into another Google search in quotes, because that will make it easier to find that particular publication. You could put it in a PsychInfo if you want, but putting it into a Google Scholar search or just a general Google search, as long as you have quotes around the title, should yield the full text if it's available. So I put that chapter title in full, in quotes, into Google, and the first link up top on that Google search, if I follow that link, it has a PDF available for the full text that I can download. So basically what this Google search has done is it's yielded the Wikipedia article that I can get a lot of basic information out of. I have the ability to go to the Google Scholar, and additionally, I have a whole references section that I can basically pillage and read those references for myself, and I can use them when I'm later doing my own literature reviews. So that, in my opinion, would be a good solid way to use Google in a way to maximally make it effective for getting good, accurate, quality sources. YouTube links, I'm gonna say no. YouTube links to get scientific information, it depends. It really, really depends. There's lots of great quality stuff on YouTube. I post my lectures on YouTube, and there are really great quality YouTube channels that put out good quality stuff. The thing is that it's hard to tell what's good and what's not, because YouTube is also full of garbage, rabbit hole, conspiracy theory, nonsense, absolute awful, not worth your time, horrible takes on research. So that's what makes it problematic. I'm going to say if you sort of look into who's putting out the YouTube content and it seems trustworthy to you, that's one thing. Additionally, if, for example, you're interested in statistics tutorials, there's lots of great statistics tutorials on YouTube. The thing, though, is that if you look up an SPSS tutorial on YouTube, you'll be able to follow along and do that same analysis on your own to verify that what is being taught in the tutorial is accurate. So like math tutorials on YouTube, I'm going to say, yeah, there's plenty of good stuff out there. I would not recommend looking up a YouTube video to do good solid background literature review, though, because there's just so much garbage on YouTube. .orgs, you might think that if a website has a .org at the end of the link, that it's good quality. That is not what that means. .org is just any group or individual who runs a company or organization. It's really not hard to get a .org website. Some .orgs are fine if it's an organization or company that you trust their perspective, that you know to be quality, thoughtful, putting out good, solid quality research. That's one thing. You just need to look into the background of the organization. To drive this point home, I always tell students an anecdote about a time when students in 293 told me they're interested in doing a project on sleep, and they asked if the National Sleep Foundation.org was a good, solid source for resources. I was like, I don't know about that. Let me look into that for you. I went to the National Sleep Foundation.org. The first thing that pinged my spidey sense was that it called itself nsf.org, which is misleadingly close to nsf.gov. So I didn't like that. I thought any good quality organization does not want to mislead people into thinking they're a governmental agency. But that might have just been oversight. I looked further into the funding sources for the National Sleep Foundation.org, and it's basically run by the MyPillow guy. Chris, what's the MyPillow guy's name? Mike Lindell. It's Mike Lindell's website where he's trying to sell you pillows. I wouldn't trust that. Absolutely not. His research is going to find that MyPillow is how you get the best sleep ever, which he is obviously financially motivated to give you misleading information about. So I'm not saying all .orgs are sketchy bullshit. I'm saying they might be sketchy bullshit. So you just have to do a little bit more background work to figure out if it's legit or if it's Mike Lindell trying to sell you something. So overall, my basic advice, it's easy for me to say, just like use your common sense. Honestly, it's just hard. I'm gonna say use common sense in that trust your own judgment, read up as much as you can, and do your own fact checking, and evaluate your sources and try and be as objective as possible, and just try and use some of these really basic tips and tricks. I completely understand that it can be hard to tell like what's garbage and what's good. Just try and think for yourself and evaluate things on a few key criteria. Okay, any questions so far? All right, so now I want to talk more about your library resources. So one way to make sure that you're basically exclusively using good scholarly caliber research is to use the library. Obviously, the physical library at Miami, I don't even, is the library open? Do you guys know? Like, can you walk into King's?
I don't
I haven't
think so.
tried it. What?
I don't think it's open, or maybe it's changed, but it wasn't open a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so obviously the physical library is a great place to just like go in and peruse. At this point though, I would say we want to make sure to maximize Miami's library online resources, of which there is an abundance. So that's what I'm going to talk about now. So in terms of utilizing the Miami University libraries to their full extent, they've got lots of resources online. They've got resources specifically developed for psychology students that you can read up on, and they provide you really good quality sources and information about your psychology classes. They've got various librarians devoted to different topics. For example, there's a dedicated social sciences librarian, Annalise, who is always happy to take inquiries from students to help you find resources. So if you ever don't feel like asking me for help, there's people at the library who are ready, willing, and able to help you get good quality sources. Additionally, you can use the Miami Library online databases, and that's what we're going to be talking about more today. So you can utilize a database to basically target your search to get exactly or get as close to what you want as possible. So one thing to keep in mind before we start looking at the PsychInfo database is to know that it utilizes what's called a Boolean logic. These are basically some semantic or logical connectors that let you use or, and not logical criteria to either target or broaden your search. So let's say you're particularly interested in research that looks at the relationship between, let's say, social media and self-esteem. Okay, you would want to have one search field have self-esteem, and then you would use the and operator to look at social media. There's social media, self-esteem, whatever. You'd put one in one search field and the other in the second and link it by and this is just going to yield searches that have both. So this might be when you want to target your search down a little bit more. Let's say you're not quite sure what you're going for yet. Maybe you're interested in self-esteem, but you don't know if you want to call it self-esteem or self-concept. You think that you're not sure if those two terms are interchangeable. You could use the or connector. Obviously, this is going to yield many more results, but if you're sort of wanting to expand your search to figure out what you're going for, you could use that operator instead. Okay, so now I want to show you guys how to actually use PsychInfo. So I'll show you how to get to PsychInfo, and I'll show you some example searches. Additionally, I posted on Canvas a example PsychInfo search, basically walking you through a series of example steps that you could run in PsychInfo yourself on whatever your topic of interest is. But I think live, I'm just going to walk you through a few example searches on PsychInfo and show you a few key features. Okay, so we're basically going to want to get to this screen, and then I'm going to walk you through some searches. I encourage you to be sort of following along and doing your own searches and trying out what I'm trying out, because this is basically what you're going to be doing for your worksheet. So now let's hop on over to PsychInfo. So go ahead and share my screen again. All right, can you guys see my Google screen? I'm not fucking that one up again. Can anyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I'm just paranoid now because I feel bad that I played you like that. Okay. All right.
Happened in one of my other classes where
Sorry?
it kept the same thing happened in one of my other classes and he had no idea why. It just kept like turning off. It was weird. Like the PowerPoints.
Yeah, it was totally my fault. I forgot to press screen share, so that's just totally my bad. I've been working a lot this morning, so I was just a little frazzled, but not gonna make that mistake twice, okay? So right now we're looking at my Google screen because I wanna make sure you know how to navigate to PsychInfo, because I can't tell you how many times a student accidentally went to a different database. So here are the steps to get to PsychInfo, and then we're gonna do some searches. So typically what I do is I just Google Miami U database. This first result here, databases A to Z. You go databases A to Z, you go to P. You scroll down to PsychInfo. It is this one, not this one. This is another database, you can use it. It's not bad. I do think PsychInfo is better. And for your worksheet, you need to use PsychInfo. I just want to make sure you've had some practice with PsychInfo because again, I think it is the best quality database. So you can play around with other databases all you want, but for this worksheet, make sure that you are using this one that says PsychInfo EBSCO host. You may have to log in if you're not already. Here we are. So this is that search window. Boolean phrase is already selected. You don't have to change anything. You really don't have to change anything anywhere down here. These are your search fields. You can select for the field to search for some sort of particular criteria. You don't have to if you don't want to. Let's just go ahead and get started of searching for some things. So in the example PsychInfo search file that I posted, I believe I was interested in a meaning in life search. Meaning in life is one of my favorite variables. It's an existential social psychology variable that essentially evaluates the extent to which people feel their life is full of purpose and significance, which is a really important aspect of well-being. So I like that. Let me just start with meaning in life. 10,000 search results. That's a bit overwhelming, huh? If I wanted to pare this down, I have multiple options. If you go to refine results over here, there's various things you can try, and you can try all of them. You can, select certain exclusion criteria and then undo them. You can just play around with it. One thing you can look for is for EBSCO full text only. That'll make it so that there'll be a full text PDF as soon as you click here. You don't need to select that if either you're not interested in reading full text, maybe, or sometimes articles are only available if you click through a few times on this find it button. It like takes you to an external but affiliated database called Ohio Link. So basically you might just have to click through find it and then keep clicking links a few times to get a full text. But you can click this if you're like, I don't want to play with that. Clicking upsets me. It pared it down quite a bit. Again, not everything that was selected out with this criteria did not have a full text associated with it that I would be unable to find. So you can use this if you want. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, particularly if you're starting to collect resources, but I'll leave it there for now. One thing to notice is this publication date. Like I mentioned, all things being equal, more recent is better. So meaning in life research that has been pulled up for me ranges from 1933 to 2020, quite a range. Maybe I want to restrict it a little bit because I don't care about meaning in life from the 1930s. I don't think anyone was having a great time then. Didn't pare it down a ton. So that might help if you're dealing with a variable that's like got a lot of real old classic literature associated with it. In this case, it didn't help that much. Academic journals versus books. You're probably not going to want to read a full book, so you could select that out if you want. One thing that you'll see in the source type field sometimes is dissertations and theses. I would recommend selecting those out if it indicates that any of those are in the search. The reason is that dissertations and theses are student papers used to get your master's or dissertation. They're not peer reviewed. So that's problematic. And also those papers tend to be very, very long. Like my dissertation was something like 100 pages. So you don't necessarily want to read that. Sometimes there's like scales that students writing their dissertation created. So you don't need to select out dissertations, but it's certainly an approach I might recommend in general. Let's see, one other thing that I want to point out over here in the refine results section is this methodology. This can restrict to different article types. So what that means is that some academic papers are original novel research projects. Some academic publications are literature reviews, where, for example, on a topic like meaning in life, it is a single paper devoted to reviewing a body of pre-existing literature. So if you're trying to get some background and just generally acquaint yourself with a topic, literature review is going to be a fantastic way to do that. Okay? And it brings my search results down to 45. So meaning making and quality of life and heart failure interventions, a systematic review. That looks like it's a review article on meaning in life and its association with heart health. That might be interesting to read. There's probably a few options in there that I like. Meaning in life and physical health, love that. Meaning and experiences of assistive technologies in everyday lives of older citizens, if maybe you're interested in gerontology. Right, lots of great options in there. Any one of these articles, any one of these papers is going to review a body of other research. So basically summarizes some research for me. So again, this is great for getting generally acquainted with a topic, is the literature review function. Okay, let's get rid of some of my selectors and I'll show you a couple other things that you can try. Okay, so I'm back up to around 8,000. That is a lot. One thing you can do, particularly since you guys are in the journey of trying to find pre-published scales, I did try and find as many pre-published scales as possible in the proposal instructions, but some of you had ideas that maybe I didn't have a scale for. One thing you can do is just take your search term and add scale to it and see if that helps. So meaning in life scale, let's see what happens. Development and validation of a scale to assess meaning in life. The social meaning in life event scale. Development of a meaning in life scale, multidimensional existential meaning in life, right? If I go through and I look for any one of these articles, I might find an entire pre-published scale that has questions devoted to the topic of my choosing. Another option would be questionnaire. Questionnaire, meaning in life questionnaire, questionnaire, right? All of that's pretty good. Down to 700, still kind of a lot. So one more thing I'm going to show you here on this search page is, let's say you are deep enough into your research that you know of an author who has a lot of work on a given topic. Maybe I found their name on Wikipedia, and this is me following up. Let's say, for example, I know enough about meaning in life to know that a guy named Steger is really hot on this meaning in life stuff. I can leave Steger there and not do anything. This is going to find any publication where Steger is mentioned in the paper, so it might just be in the references section, which is maybe that's good enough. I can also select that I want papers on meaning in life questionnaires of which Steger was the author. Okay. Again, more meaning in life questionnaires. Again, I know enough to know that Steger's meaning in life questionnaire is probably the best one. You might not know who is the best author, who put out the best scale of a certain topic. Try and find it on Wikipedia, ask me, right? Once you know an author that you know for sure has a lot of expertise on this topic, you can select for them here in the author field. So those are various ways you can select down your search to try and get the results you want, refine your results a little bit. So now, what if I actually want to read one of these search results? Well, you click on it, and it brings you to a page that has more information on the authors and abstract. Definitely read the abstract. It's a short paragraph long summary of the entire paper. So reading the abstract can tell you whether or not you care about this article at all. If you want to find the full text, sometimes there'll be a button here that says EBSCO full text. And if you click that, you can get the PDF. Sometimes that's not there, you just see this find it button. And you might think this is the end of the line, this article is not available. Well, you don't know, just try it, see what happens. Get full text from Ohio Link. What do you think happens if I click this? Link. So it looks like Ohio Link is not actually providing me the full text. So this would be kind of the end of the line for trying to get this full text. Often when you see this get full text from Ohio Link, if you keep clicking, you will end up with a full text publication. Ohio Link is basically a state-based database that Miami Libraries pays for access to. So if you see that something is linked in Ohio Link and you want the full text, try clicking around. If it's not available, you know, you can always put the title in quotes and throw it into Google. Just try different strategies. If you're really struggling to get an article and you really want to read it, there typically will be ways that you can get it. Worst case is you can request an interlibrary loan. But more often than not, you'll be able to find most things on the internet that you really need. So then, lastly, I want to show you and bring attention to these tools over here to the right once you click on an article. So you can add an article to Google Drive, you can add it to a folder that PsychInfo puts together for you, you can print it, email it, save it, do lots of things here. The two functions in this tools bar that I want to make sure to put on your radar, one is this cite. Oh, you mean they'll just give me the APA citation? Yes, they will. PsychInfo will generate citations, full citations in various styles for you. So we're going to be using APA. So you would just go to APA and you would copy that. It's not always perfect. Sometimes there's like a minor mistake, but for our purposes, it's typically correct. You know, authors, date, title, journal title, issue volume, DOI page numbers. This looks pretty good to me. So you can just use that one. Then, and this is particularly important for your worksheet because people get this wrong constantly on this worksheet. This here, permalink, okay? Make sure for your worksheet that the link you include for the articles you find, you are using this permalink, okay? I clicked permalink, and you see how it generated this permalink up here in that box? Use this as the link that you put in your worksheet. If you copy this and put it in your worksheet and send it to me, I will get an error message when I try and open it. Permalink is a link that you can send to other people and they'll be able to be directed to this very page and see exactly what you saw on PsychInfo. So use the permalink, not the URL. I will reiterate one last time, use the permalink or you're gonna lose a point. Don't play me like that. This works better than this. This will give an error message, okay? So I think that that's basically all I want to say about finding research. Does anyone have any questions?